The last stand of the Oran Alliance. The sky above Draz 4 was on fire. High Marshal Velaz stood atop the icy parapet of Fort Kelrose, his eyes fixed on the horizon as black tendrils of smoke curled through the atmosphere. Beyond the walls, the Varkal Swarm advanced, an ocean of limbs, claws, and gnashing mouths, each movement synchronized with terrifying precision. The last transmission from Orbital Command had confirmed it. The last line of defense had fallen. The enemy was here. High Marshal, orbital comms are dark, reported Commander Ilina, her sleek, feathered form hunched as she ducked low beside him. The swarm has disabled our satellites. No help is coming. Velaz nodded grimly. The Oran Alliance had once spanned 100 systems, an amalgamation of species bound by trade, diplomacy, and shared defense. Now, it had been reduced to a few scattered fleets and isolated outposts. Draz 4 was one of the last. He activated his comlink. All batteries prepare for final barrage. Close range only. We make our stand here. Troops scrambled along the walls. Artillery cannons whirred to life. Energy shields flickered and snapped under the weight of Varkal bombardments. The very moon shook beneath their feet. But Velaz knew this was a delaying action. Nothing more. They were buying time. For what? He wasn't sure anymore. Suddenly, the comms console lit up with a flicker of static. A burst of strange symbols scrolled across the screen. It wasn't Varkal language. It was old, primitive. Ilina's eyes widened. That's Terran code. From the fringe. Unencrypted. Velaz blinked. Terrans? That was impossible. The humans had vanished from the known galaxy over 4 centuries ago, after the collapse of the Soul Helix relay. Most believed them extinct, lost to civil war, internal collapse, or retreat into dark space. A burst of audio cracked through the channel. To all surviving Alliance forces, this is Task Force Black Spear, Earth Unified Command. We received your distress call. Reinforcements inbound. Hold position. Extraction and suppression begins now. Velaz didn't know whether to laugh or weep. The humans were real, and they had come back. The sky answered before he could. A sound like tearing metal and rolling thunder filled the air. Dozens of sleek, triangular ships tore through the clouds in perfect formation. Jet black holes bore no insignias, only glowing blue stripes along their underbellies. The ships decelerated with unnatural precision, hanging motionless for only a second before launching salvo after salvo of crimson orbital fire. The Varkal horde, halfway through the outer trench, disintegrated under the bombardment. Each blast carved a canyon of flame through the swarm's ranks. And then the real terror descended. Drop pods. Hundreds of them screamed through the smoke like falling stars. They struck the ground with bone-shaking impact, ejecting armored figures into the chaos. Humanoid soldiers, taller and bulkier than any Alliance race, stormed into the breach with an unholy rhythm. Their armor was matte black, scarred with white accents, and every one of them carried a weapon too large for Velaz's troops to even lift. And they didn't hesitate. Not for a moment. Human soldiers moved like predators, ruthless, coordinated, and utterly without fear. They advanced under the cover of aerial drones and canine combat units, exosuit limbs tearing through Varkal carapaces like paper. When a swarm adapted, the humans adapted faster. Velaz watched, stunned, as a single squad of 7 humans cleared an entire trench line that had taken his army months to hold. Are they immune to fear? Ilina whispered. No, Velaz replied, eyes narrowed. They've just seen worse. Hours later, the battlefield was silent. Smoke drifted over heaps of smoldering Varkal corpses. Human medics moved swiftly between the wounded, treating Oran and Terran alike without ceremony or discrimination. Velaz finally met the leader of the operation, a broad-shouldered Terran clad in power armor with the name Core etched into his chest plate. You're real, Velaz said, more to himself than to the man. Real enough, Core answered, voice like gravel. Earth heard your call, and we answer. Late maybe, but not quiet. What made you return? Core's eyes were unreadable behind his visor. Same thing that always brings us back. Someone threatened our species. Now they threaten yours. We can't allow that. Velas took a breath. Your tactics, your weapons, where have you been? Kor glanced toward the skies where his ships floated in high-orbit formation. Far, deeper than your maps go. We didn't disappear. We evolved. Before Velas could ask more, a new transmission buzzed on Kor's wrist pad. The Terrans' expression hardened. New orders. We're pushing forward to Coratel. Hive world. High value. You're attacking again? Already. Kor gave a slight nod. We don't stop. That's the difference. As the Terran soldiers reloaded, regrouped, and re-entered their drop pods, Velas realized something both terrifying and hopeful. The war was no longer lost. The swarm didn't understand what had arrived, but the galaxy would remember. The humans were back, and they were relentless. Relentless steel and fire. The jungle of Coratel wasn't a forest. It was a living nightmare. Massive trees with fibrous, bone-white trunks stretched high above, their canopies choking the sun. Thick vines pulsed with bioluminescence, and beneath them, the Varkal Swarm nested. Coratel was their breeding ground, their second hive world, and humanity's next target. From orbit, it looked like a thriving world. From the ground, it was pure horror. Major Elias Kor stood in the back of a Terran Juggernaut-class drop ship, one hand gripping the overhead rail, the other resting on his rifle. An M81 plasma railgun modified for atmosphere. Around him stood his fire team, Ripper Squad. Veterans, every one. No words were spoken. They didn't need to. A soft chime echoed through the drop bay. Drop in T-minus 30 seconds. Surface winds stable. Swarm resistance high. The doors split open. Air howled. The ground below was an ocean of green and black movement. Gear check, Kor said calmly. One by one, armor systems lit up. Integrated HUDs flashed status. Ammo, vitals, environment filters. Beside them, AI war dogs, four-legged cybernetic beasts with plasma maws, let out low mechanical growls. Drop, the pilot barked. The Terrans jumped. Kor slammed into the jungle floor with enough force to shatter concrete. His boots hissed, hydraulic joints compensating for the impact. Before the dust settled, his railgun was up, firing. The Varkal emerged immediately, six-limbed brutes with acidic talons and armor-thick hides. They burst from the undergrowth, screeching in ultrasonic waves meant to paralyze prey. Didn't work on Terrans. Ripper Squad advanced in a crescent formation. Plasma fire lit up the jungle. Rounds exploded with surgical precision, and the dogs tore through flanks like guided missiles. Human soldiers moved as one. Crouch, fire, reposition cover. Fluid and brutal. They didn't just kill. They exterminated. Across the front line, Alliance forces watched in disbelief. Oran warriors, insectoid Volari gunners, and avian tacticians had spent years barely holding this world's outskirts. Now, the humans were cutting through it in hours. Inside a forward command bunker, High Marshal Velas watched the feed. Drones broadcast live footage of Ripper squads pushed toward Hive Cluster 12. They're not just fighting, murmured Commander Ilina. They're mapping the Hive in real time. Their AI is calculating routes faster than our best scouts. They treat this like a purge, Velas said. No negotiations. No mercy. Would you negotiate with a plague? Velas had no answer. Kor and his squad reached the outer ring of Hive Cluster 12, an organic fortress of chitin and pulsating flesh. The Varkal had begun birthing again. Fresh drones were pouring from spawning vents like ants. He raised his left arm and activated a micro-drone swarm. The cloud of glowing motes zipped ahead, painting targets on the hive walls. A moment later, the sky cracked, orbital kinetic lances slammed down, obliterating key structures in molten flashes. The hive screeched. Kor moved. With grenades and focus fire, they breached the outer layer. Inside, the hive was humid, dark, and alive. Walls throbbed with movement. Kor's squad lit it up with flammers, plasma, and sonic charges. A Varkal lieutenant, a massive multi-limbed warrior, charged him. Kor didn't flinch. He ducked under its slash, jammed his railgun under its thorax, and fired. The top half exploded. "Contact!" "Inner nest," shouted Corporal Vance. "Spawners incoming." "Push forward," Core barked. The squad advanced, clearing corridors one after another with inhuman efficiency. For every human breath, 5 Varkal died. No one hesitated. No one retreated. Back on the Alliance cruiser Relic's Hope, General Amari reappeared on the hollow bridge. Her presence, even as a projection, sent a hush across the alien crew. "Major Core," she said through encrypted comms. "Status. Cluster 12 is down. Hive burnt. Casualties minimal. Resistance adapting slowly. Recommend full advance on clusters 13 through 16. And the Swarm Queen." Core hesitated for the first time. "Still hidden, but she'll feel this." By the end of the Coratel campaign, 6 major hives were burned, 17 minor clusters eradicated, and over 2.8 million Varkal confirmed dead. The Terrans suffered 39 casualties. The Alliance had expected a slow, painful reconquest. They got a massacre instead. High Marshal Veloz stood beside Core as the last hive went up in flames. "You fight like you've already lost everything," he said quietly. Core didn't look at him. "We did. Burn the stars." The war changed after Coratel. The Varkal weren't retreating, they were dying. Across the sector, their forces fractured. Colonies once thought doomed suddenly held. Worlds previously written off were reclaimed in days. But the victories came at a cost. Humanity's methods horrified even their allies. On the Alliance flagship Harrowen, a tense war council assembled. Holograms of planets, star systems, and casualty reports floated above the polished black table. General Amari Run stood at the head, flanked by high-ranking human officers and an uneasy gallery of alien commanders. "You collapse an entire sun," shouted Admiral Threx, a crystalline being from the Archidominion. His voice rang with outrage. "You destabilized the Euler system to trap a single fleet." "And it worked," Rin replied coldly. Her uniform was pristine, but her eyes held a fire that spoke of long winters and lost continents. That fleet was the Varkal's primary breeding force. You saw what they did to Coratel. You saw the spawning pits. But you turned Euler into a black hole, snapped Ilina, feathered crest flaring. Thousands of innocent civilians. "They died quickly," Rin said, "which is more than I can say for anyone the swarm infects." A silence settled. Even Veloz had no reply. The humans weren't just efficient. They were absolute. Across the front, Operation Firewalk was in full swing. 3 systems. For weeks. No survivors left behind. Human Black Ops teams deployed antimatter mines to planetary cores, collapsing tectonic plates to destroy underground hives. Entire moons were shattered and hurled into swarm-held strongholds using gravitational disruptors. Orbital platforms ignited atmospheres. The Varkal Queen adapted, but slowly. Her hive mind had never encountered anything like Terran warfare. Her fragments screamed across subspace. The flesh that remembers. The burned ones. Back. Again. For the first time in memory, the swarm hesitated. Ripper Squad now operated ahead of the main force, tasked with precision strikes. Major Core had become a symbol, a myth whispered in both Terran camps and alien war tents. On the charred world of Narrows 3, Ripper Squad breached a deep hive. It wasn't large, only a nesting chamber, but it housed something rare, a queen node. Core stood over the creature's twitching form. Half conscious, its exposed mind pulsed weakly, trying to communicate. "Don't kill it yet," said Vance, kneeling to monitor its neural activity. "It's thinking." The node spoke, not in words, in memories. Flashes surged across the squad's helmets. Crumbling cities ONT Earth, skies black with orbital bombardments, swarms devouring Terran continents. Centuries ago, the Varkal had fought humanity before, and lost. "We weren't the first wave," Core murmured. "We're the second." A flash of code blinked across the HUD. Translated fragments from the node's mind. Ancient pain. Fire that learned to walk. Fear. The old kind. Back on the Harrowan, the intelligence was clear. The Varkal hadn't been caught off guard. They were terrified. This is why they bypassed Earth for so long. Amari Rin said taught the council. They didn't fear you, but they remembered us. The Orin and others exchanged glances. Then why return? Velaz asked. Why come back now? Rin didn't blink. Because they're desperate, and desperation makes monsters reckless. She tapped the console. The galaxy map shifted. Intercepted swarm traffic confirms it. Their queen is changing course. She's abandoned the outer systems. She's heading straight for the Soul Core. Silence. Commander Ilina whispered. They're going after Earth. Velaz approached Core that night. The human stood alone beneath the shattered moon of Narrows 3, watching orbital debris burn across the sky. You knew this was coming, Velaz said. Core didn't turn. We hoped it wouldn't. But war always returns home. Velaz studied him. When we sent that distress signal, we never expected anyone to answer. Let alone you. You Terrans vanished from the galaxy. Core finally looked at him. We didn't vanish. We withdrew. To where? Far beyond your stars. Into silence. Into rebuilding. You see, when the Varkal first came, we lost. Badly. Billions gone. Cities burned. But we adapted. And we waited. Waited for what? Core's voice was quiet. To become the thing that even monsters fear. Operation Firewalk was completed in a blaze of destruction. The swarm had been pushed back farther than ever before. But Earth had now become the prize and the final battleground. As the human fleet prepared to jump to Sol, Amari Run addressed the combined armada. Her face filled every screen, every helmet visor, every command center from Terran warships to Orn frigates. This is where we make our stand. Not for territory, not for pride, but for survival. The swarm has come to devour what remains of our species. What it doesn't know is that we're not just survivors, we're the response. Her final words echoed across the stars. They think they're hunters, but with a fire. And this time, we're burning everything. Earth stands, Earth burns. The stars above, Earth bled red. From Luna Station to the black clouds over Tokyo Arcology, the sky was a tapestry of war. Dozens of Varkal hive ships, each the size of a city, punched through Sol's outer defenses, flanked by swarms of living missiles and acid-spitting interceptors. But Earth did not panic. It prepared. Underground bunkers sealed beneath mountain ranges. Automated defense satellites lit up the void. Vast orbital arrays activated energy shields over major cities. The human race did not run. They braced. In the war command chamber buried deep under the old Berlin complex, General Amari Ren stood at the center of a 360 degrees battle display. Human and alien officers moved around her like clockwork, relaying data, issuing fleet commands, and monitoring ground deployments. Varkal advance confirmed along the Atlantic Shield, a tech officer reported. Hive ships are descending toward Western Europe and West Africa. Estimated ground fall, 5 minutes. Ren's jaw clenched. Deploy Guardian Protocol. Authorize all Terran forces to engage at maximum capacity. No retreat. Across Earth, the order echoed. This is it. Burn them. Major Elias Corps and Ripper Squad stood atop the shattered ruins of the Brandenburg Dome, their jet black armor now painted with 1,000 battles. The sky above them roared as Varkal drop spores hurtled down like hellfire meteors. Each soldier readied weapons in silence. A distant tremor shook the earth. Then a second. Then 1,000 alien shrieks. Ripper 1 to command. Corps said into his comm. Swarm has made planetfall. Requesting deployment of Hades unit. Confirmed, came the response. Project Hades authorized. Project Hades wasn't a unit. It was a weapon. Banned by every known interstellar treaty, it had been created in the shadows, developed by humans when they first began preparing for a second war with the swarm. The result was a fusion of nanite warfare, antimatter implosion cores, and AI that skirted the edges of sentience. Moments later, from hangars buried beneath the Himalayas, Hades Protocol launched. 12 massive war machines, each the size of a small building, landed in Varkal-infested zones with thunderous force. It didn't need pilots. They were the battlefield. Where they moved, the swarm died. In the ruins of New Dakar, Corps led Ripper Squad through acid-scorched streets. The swarm poured in from all sides, adaptive, endless, hungry. For the first time, they had countermeasures for human weapons. They mimicked Terran tactics, used pack maneuvers, shielded their hives with psychic dampening fields. For every one Ripper killed, 5 more came. "Can't hold this zone," shouted Vance. "Too many." Corps pulled a thermal grenade, tossed it around a corner, and ducked behind a collapsing wall. "We don't hold, Vance. We bleed them." Behind them, an AI war dog named Spiker, their last, launched itself into a swarm cluster and detonated its core. Corps didn't flinch. No tears. No time. The tide began to shift only when Orbital Platform X-9 came online, Earth's last-ditch planetary cannon array. 30 rail cannons, powered by dark matter reactors, opened fire in synchronized bursts, punching holes straight through hive ships still in atmosphere. One by one, the monsters fell, but the Varkal Queen had already landed. She emerged in the Arctic expanse, towering, grotesque, armored in obsidian shell and veined with pulsing red light. Her psychic field spanned miles, disrupting communications, overloading sensors, turning Terran drones to scrap. "She's making for the planetary core," Ren realized. "She's going to poison Earth from the inside." And only one team was close enough to stop her. Corps' armor was shredded. One leg was braced by an exoskeletal clamp, his HUD flashing red warnings. Only 2 Ripper squad members remained. Snow whipped around them as they approached the Queen's crater. "This is suicide," Vance muttered. "Yeah," Corps replied. "Glorious, isn't it?" From his pack, he pulled a silver orb the size of a heart. A singularity bomb. The last one. A weapon not meant for use, only deterrence. Corps looked back at Vance and the last squad mate. "Go. That's an order. You're not coming out." "Nope." He turned, one final breath fogging his helmet's visor, and charged. Ren watched the Queen's crater from orbital satellites. All feeds went dark. Then, a flash. A singularity tore open the fabric of space and collapsed it. The Queen, and everything near her, was gone. Earth was silent. 1 week later, the final Varkal signals ceased. The swarm was dead. The galaxy was free. Epilogue. The Galactic Council reconvened, what was left of it. From across the stars, species once driven to extinction reemerged. They offered Earth leadership of the new interstellar order. Ren stood before them, dressed in simple Terran gray, not military garb. Behind her, a new flag rose, not of a nation, but of a species. "You called for help," she said. "We answered. But don't ever forget this. We are what happens when you let monsters think no one will fight back." Far beneath Earth's surface, in a sealed chamber beneath the old Berlin complex, a new team of soldiers trained under holographic fire. A plaque hung on the wall, scorched but proud. "Ripper Squad, first in, last out." And above it, etched in steel, "Relentless to the end."